I don't know about you, but I love to go on vacation. And one of my favorite spots to vacation is in foreign countries. However, I know that I can't use my hard-earned American dollars if I, per se, go over to Europe. So, what am I supposed to do? How can I buy products, buy services, and find souvenirs? How can I find souvenirs for myself while I'm out of the country? How do I purchase my hotel room? Well, luckily, I can exchange my American currency for the euro or the European currency using the foreign exchange markets. The foreign exchange market is the market where currencies are traded. There is no physical location. It's not an actual geographic location like one might think about when you talk about Wall Street. However, it is a global electronic exchange which allows people to trade money in between different currencies and sets exchange rates for each of those currencies. Now, on the exchange rate, in terms of exchange rates, there are two ways that you can write rates. And brief disclaimer, for this video, we're going to be using the American dollar and the European euro, which is used by the EU in all EU member countries. That's just, you can have a foreign exchange rate between anything, the Canadian dollar and the French franc, the Brazilian real, the yen. You can use all the different currencies, any different currency that you want. But just for this video, we're going to be using the euro and the American dollar. Also, we're not going to be using real exchange data. We're going to be using numbers that make the math easy. It is important to remember, however, that you're not always going to get these easy numbers and that you do not have a calculator on the AP test. I personally think it's a little ridiculous because it is a macro test, not a math test. They're not trying to test your ability to compute the math. They're trying to test your understanding of the financial systems and the economy as a whole. But I don't work for the College Board. That's not my decision. So, So back to rates. There are two ways that you can write your rates for exchanges. You can use it in terms of one currency in another. However, since you're comparing two currencies, you get two ways to write it. For example, I can write the exchange rate in American dollars in terms of euros. Basically, the amount of euros I'd have to spend to get a dollar, which for this example is going to be half a euro to get $1. Or you can talk about how you can use $1 to get €2. The basic premise here is that you're buying one currency in terms of another. So, if the exchange rate is 1-to-1, then $1 is going to be able to buy me €1. But if a euro is worth half a dollar, I'm going to need 2 American dollars to get €1, but I'll only need half a euro to get 1 American dollar. Now, these rates are not static. As we talked about, the foreign exchange market is what determines these rates and kind of how they change. Now, there are two types of change that a rate can undergo, and that this effectively the currency undergoes. You can have an appreciation, which is when the value of a currency becomes more valuable in terms of other countries' currency. For example, if let's say there was a 1-to-1 ratio for the US dollar to the euro, and then suddenly it became $1 to 80 cents for the euro, the dollar has now become more expensive than the euro, so less euro buys the same amount of dollar. Now, while the US dollar appreciated in that example, the euro depreciated, which is when a currency becomes less valuable in terms of other currencies. This is what happened with the euro, right? Where you can now buy less euro with the same amount of American dollar. We're now going to take a quick peek over at the chalkboard. This is a new segment we're going to be introducing to help kind of illustrate graphs and concepts. Again, big part of economics is the graphs, as is the motto of this channel. When in doubt, graph it out, because you can always get the answers from a graph, no matter how stuck you are. And we're going to show you about how you can actually connect all the macro topics to get to your answer, no matter what information you have or where you are in the problem, using graphs in the golden ticket video, which we're going to get into later. So, let's head over to the chalkboard and see how supply and demand helps us determine exchange rates.
Determining exchange rates on the Forex market. Well, of course, first we're going to be looking at the Forex graphs. So as you see, it's your basic supply and demand. The only difference is that for Forex graphs, you have to have twin graphs. One for dollars and one for whatever foreign currency you're using. In this example, we'll be using the euro. So you can see the supply of euros and dollars brought to the market from people in America and Europe, respectively, compared to the demand of the dollar by people in Europe and the demand of the euro by people in America. So we're going to be looking at it as a person who is trying to turn their dollars into euros. So what's going to happen if an American with dollars is trying to convert it to euros? Let's say they're going on vacation so they can buy themselves some so they can purchase their hotel room in Europe, right? So first you're going to have that, well, we're going to walk through it step by step. So first you're going to have that the supply of dollars is going to increase in the market because the American is bringing their dollars to the market. And you see that's going to increase the exchange rate, which as you can see is euros in terms of dollars, meaning that it's going to be more euros per $1, meaning that the dollar is going to appreciate or become more valuable in terms of other countries' currencies, as we've talked about already. Now what's going to happen with the euro is that the demand for the euro is going to increase, right? Because the demand for the euro is going to increase due to the fact that the person in America is now demanding the euro, which is also going to increase the dollar in terms of euro, which is going to cause the euro to appreciate. So the dollar's depreciating. I said that wrong. I'm very sorry. So you're going to see that, of course, being supply and demand, you're going to have an equilibrium. In this case, it's the equilibrium exchange rate, which is very simply when the demanded dollar or euro equals the supplied euro or dollar. Of course, this is exactly what you think it is. It is a basic supply and demand graph. I can't stress that enough. It's just paired supply and demand graphs that's comparing two currencies instead of a single supply and demand graph for a certain product. So we're now going to look at the chalkboard with nominal versus real exchange rates. So the real exchange rate is simply the exchange rates adjusted for the international differences in aggregate price levels. Effectively, it's just if one country has more inflation than the other, the real exchange rate accounts for that. So if you look at the real exchange rates, we're going to look at it in euros per dollar. It's basically how many euros per dollar you can get. That's just the exchange rate times the aggregate price level in dollars over the aggregate price level in euros. You can also write it as the real exchange rate in dollars per euro, which is going to be the same equation but reversed. This isn't necessarily necessary to know. This is more of a micro concept, but it's still something to keep in mind. Basically, understanding what the real exchange rate is.
So that's foreign exchange rates. They're very helpful in allowing different companies to buy things from companies and producers in other countries, and really allows our economy to be benefited by access to the global economy. So if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. And for AP Economics, this is Duncan Fox driving away.